So a huge win for Tallon Griekspoor as he knocks out the number 1 seed at Indian Wells. And the poor form continues, leading to questions. What is wrong with Alexander Zverev? That's right, and before we go anywhere, smash a like, subscribe to the channel. Let's get stuck into this. And talent is what they're saying here with Tennis TV. He does have a lot of talent. Tallon Griekspoor on his 6th match point. He stuns the top seed, Alexander Zverev, to advance into round 3. The final score was 4-6, 7-6, 7-6. So 2 tie breaks from Tallon Griekspoor, who's been having fantastic run of form, especially on the hard courts. We know that last week he was playing so well, knocked out Daniel Medvedev in Dubai, was playing really well up until he played Tsitsipas, and unfortunately for him, Tsitsipas was back to his best form, but he's been beating some big players, and that's the main thing. But what is wrong with Alexander Zverev? He seems to be losing to players who you would expect him to beat. And after winning the first set 6-4 in this match, the second set, he found himself 5-2 down. He managed to pull it all the way back to the tiebreak, and you'd think, oh, Zverev, he's just back. He's just going to win this set now after forcing the tiebreak. Nope, lost the tiebreak. He was so close, really, to the win, 2 points away. But after losing that tiebreak, they went to the decider. And in the decider, very, very close still. But Tallon Griekspoor, he had so many of these match points in the match at 6-5 in that third set. You can see here on the screen, 5 match points at 6-5. And Zverev able to hang in there again. But it still wasn't good enough, and he still lost the tiebreak again. So he showed some resolve, but in the really, really big moments at the end of these sets, he wasn't able to hang with Griekspoor. And it's just another blot on Zverev's 2025. And he's now lost in the quarterfinals in Buenos Aires to Francisco Cerúndolo. He lost in Rio in the quarterfinals to Comesaña. He lost in the round of 16 of Acapulco to Lerner Tien. And now the round of 64 loss to Griekspoor at Indian Wells. This is considered the 5th slam of the year, that one of the biggest tournaments other than a slam, and he's gone out super early, being the number 1 seed, having the pressure of maybe looking towards Jannik Sinner being off the tour and having an opportunity to chase for the actual world number 1 spot. Has the pressure got to Alexander Zverev again? And that's what we're here to discuss, because for somebody who's been in such great form at the Australian Open, to then suddenly look second rate, I'd say, in these tournaments, losing to opposition who you'd expect him to beat. No disrespect to Cerúndolo, but Zverev on a clay court, one of the best clay court players on tour. Someone we saw go toe-to-toe with Rafael Nadal at Roland Garros, and until he twisted his ankle, looked like he was going to beat him. And now we see what's happened. He's lost twice on clay courts. He's now lost twice on the hard courts in tournament. Well, Acapulco, one that he's won before as well. It's just not looking good for Alex Zverev right now. And some of the tactics that Tallon Griekspoor's team were sort of shouting to him to motivate Griekspoor was just basic stuff. You're on his ass. Just stay in the moment, do basic things. Simple stuff to say, but when you notice the person down the other end may be making more errors than they normally do, they may hand the match to you. So very wise words from his team, telling him to go back to basics. It sounds very obvious, but in those big moments, you might just need those little instructions just to help you not go for as many shots as you normally would and allow your opponent to self-destruct instead. I'm worried about Zverev because this is what he said afterwards. He just said, I'm just not playing good tennis at the moment. Definitely not playing anywhere near the level I played in Australia. I'm just disappointed in my game. To become number 1, you have to win tournaments. I'm not getting past the first or second rounds at the moment. yeah, very concerning. From somebody who did so well at the Australian Open, he got all the way to the final, but then he got humbled in the final. He got absolutely obliterated, and I can't dress it up anyway. He didn't even look on the same planet as Jannik Sinner on that court. He lost in straight sets. I think that there could be something to do with, like Gil said, it could be an Australian Open hangover, because Gil did put out a good tweet saying, I don't know if it's an Australian Open hangover, low motivation February, or pressure from number one ranking opportunity. I said on a previous podcast, I didn't think it was number two, but I definitely now am looking more at number one. I definitely agree with number three. Number one, I think losing to Jannik Sinner in the manner that he lost to him, it can devastate a player, and you can really come off the court and be questioning your own abilities anymore. If that was the number one player in the world and I didn't even take a set from him, how good am I really? You start questioning your ability. Now, obviously, Zverev is at the top of the sport. He should be beating the players that he's just lost to in these 4 tournaments after the Australian Open, but he isn't beating them because there's probably something going on upstairs that he needs to work out in his mind. And it doesn't help the pressure of being number one seed in tournaments and Jannik Sinner being off the tour, and you have the opportunity. Now's no better opportunity. Sinner can't pick up any points, and you can pick up all of them, and he's hardly picking up any. It's a real mind scratcher, this one. But tennis, as we all know, is such a mental game, on and off the court as well. And you can see here, losing to Sorundalo, these are the players he's beaten since the Australian Open. This is probably better to look at. Dusan Lajovic, you'd expect him to beat him as well. Bu, Shevchenko. He's going to a lot of tie breaks though, which does surprise me a little bit. He beat Arnaldi, but in 3 sets. Arnaldi actually won a tie break against him there as well. Lost to Lernertian in straight sets. That was quite devastating. It was a very close match against Griekspoor. But the old Zverev, the one in the Australian Open, probably would have won this match in straight sets, if I'm perfectly honest. He really needs to go back to the drawing board. I'm not sure what he needs to do to improve the mental side of his game, but he needs to sit down with somebody. Maybe needs to have like a hypnotist or something to get him out of this crazy mental state. But it's definitely too coincidental that when the number one spot is on the line, he mentally breaks down. This one, I think, is a double whammy, like Gil's saying, of the Australian Open. I think it's Jannik Sinner playing on his mind still. The fact he got dominated so easily in that final. Yes, some of the sets were close, but there was no doubt on who was going to win the match. And I think Zverev knew it himself, deep within. He has to raise his level again. We're coming up soon to probably, some would say, his best slam, which is Roland Garros. Got to the final last year. He needs to be in the right headspace going into that tournament. Otherwise, we could see another early exit from Sasha Zverev. And Scott Barkley, always one to have a nice sarcastic tweet, so we'll finish on this, saying only Alexander Zverev could have the mental strength to be able to save multiple match points against an opponent that's having a mental breakdown on court and still manage to lose the match. Brilliantly awful performance. So Scott, always good for a bit of tongue-in-cheek. And, well, Tallon Griekspoor now goes through and he will face Umpechi Pericard, who in the draw preview I had Umpechi Pericard defeating Zverev anyway. I didn't think Zverev was going to do well at this tournament based upon all of the results leading up to it, and it has proved to be the case. But tell me your thoughts about Sasha Zverev in the comments section below. What do you think is the main reason for all of these losses, this poor form? Is it the number one? Is it the fact that Jannik Sinner crushed him at the Australian Open? Or is there something else? Tell me in that comment section. And if you haven't done so yet, smash a like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.